Now, Shakur Stevenson did not just sign a massive Zuffa deal. He removed the biggest excuse in boxing: politics, restrictions, promoter control. Now he says anyone can get it. If that is true, we're about to discover his greatness. Okay, so Shakur Stevenson has signed to Zuffa. So let's go through some questions/statements to aid our understanding. So first, his managers have found the best available deal. So Shakur's managers have found the best available deal, implying strongly that Zuffa outbid everyone else. So what does that say about the power in boxing? Is the power in boxing shifting? Now, when we say the best deal, my first question is it the best deal? Let me explain. Zuffa is about a meritocracy, the best fight the best, but it's also about a culture of entertainment. Shakur is a defensive boxer. He's a defensive master. But according to the casual fan, which Zuffa allegedly is trying to cater for, he is not the most entertaining. That to me will create a clash. So will they try to change the identity of Shakur? Or will Shakur continue to be a defensive master? And will Zuffa be okay with that? Because clearly it's stated that they are trying to create a culture of great fights. So it's not just a meritocracy. It's not just about being the best, because Shakur, and I'm a massive fan of Shakur, is one of the best. But it's also about entertaining fights, and entertaining from the perspective of the casual fan. From my perspective, an outsider looking in, to me, I would say that not all money is good money, but time will tell. So he, Shakur, told Dana White and Turkey to their face that he's the best fighter on the roster. So what does this mean when a fighter walks in and immediately asserts dominance over the organization? Now let's establish Shakur is an elite boxer. He's a boxer of a very high level, and he's one of the best defensive boxers out there. But I think the Zuffa platform will create problems. Like I said, Zuffa wants brutal boxing. It wants entertainment. It does not want defensive masterclasses. It does not want, according to them, defensive geniuses. Perhaps Shakur Stevenson is the exception. But this is definitely a risk. Definitely a risk. Maybe the money is worth it though. Now, Shakur calls the critics damn near 100% wrong across his entire career. And the question then becomes, is this arrogance or is the data on his side? Let's be honest. I think Shakur has shown that he's a great fighter. He's shown that he's elite. And the question isn't whether he's great. The question is, how great is he? How many other doors can he open? It's important to recognize that for him to maintain his greatness or even surpass his greatness, he needs to maintain his discipline and he needs to maintain his boxing identity. So this new journey to Zuffa is going to be interesting because, yes, Shakur Stevenson can win in the battle for meritocracy, i.e. the best fighting the best. But what happens when you put him in a culture where he has to throw more punches and he has to take more risks? So this is going to be an interesting environment for Shakur. And according to Shakur, there are no restrictions with Zuffa. Any fight, any opponent, anyone. And the implication there is that maybe previous fights were blocked, maybe there was a promotional problem, not a willingness problem. And as to me, it goes back to the same thing. I mean, the first thing is that the meritocracy element of Zuffa is actually really in Shakur's favor. So there's an alignment there. So let's acknowledge that. So the fights that he wants, he can get. And, you know, these fights will generate loads of money and they will lend. And Shakur is lending his credibility to Zuffa. That's a good thing. But again, we go back to the culture. And the culture of Zuffa is where the problems may begin. As I said, they want action. And typically Shakur is a 12-round boxer. He's a person who downloads the data and he's a person who takes away your weapons and he beats you on points. Now, of course, Zuffa know what they're doing. They're leveraging the credibility of Shakur. But what happens if these philosophies don't align? And perhaps Shakur Stevenson is at such a level that perhaps it doesn't matter. Perhaps he's the exception to the rule. Now, Shakur doesn't claim to have a style. He claims to be the best adapter in the sport. And, you know, I think adaptability, to me, adaptability has a relationship with high boxing IQ. And I think Shakur is great at solving puzzles. I think Usyk in his prime would make a compelling argument that he's the best at solving puzzles, as well as Terence Crawford. But of course, he's recently retired. Of course, the puzzle of the fighters may not be the problem, but now he has the puzzle of becoming an entertaining boxer. So now he needs to be able to not just decode the fighters, but now he needs to be able to take more risks, throw more punches, but still maintain his defensive responsibilities. He needs to go through the phases of punches if we are assuming, and this is an assumption, that he's going to align with the Zuffa culture, which the part of the Zuffa culture is being entertaining, having entertaining fights. And again, it's entertainment, not just from the boxing purist perspective, it's entertainment from the casual perspective, which is basically boxing matches that turn into wars. Think of Evander Holyfield 1, Ali Frazier 1, Ali Frazier 3, etc. So I just wonder if Shakur Stevenson has thought about this risk, if his team has thought about this risk. But again, is the money that good? If the money is life-changing, does it matter in the end? And then the next statement is about the Teo fight, which shows he's on a different level to everyone else. And I think it's correct that the Teo fight, because I've seen Teo fight, and Teo looks like a great fighter. When you see Teo fight, you think, wow, you know, this person has exceptional talent. But Shakur just made it look easy. And again, it's just the pressure of the Zuffa culture. Will that impact Shakur's style? Because let's think of this. If the Shakur and Teo fight was on the Zuffa card, if we assume that Zuffa wants these wars, then there would have been an expectation for Shakur to try and knock Teo out. And if he had tried to knock Teo out, that would have created more risk and therefore would have given Teo an opportunity to get back into the fight. So there's no doubt that Shakur is evolving. He's great at downloading data. But I guess what he needs to work on is adapting his boxing identity. So he wants to be able to, assuming if he goes down this path, so he wants to become an entertaining fighter to align with the culture, but still be able to be defensively responsible. So it's like you're throwing more punches, but you want to keep reducing the risk of getting hit, essentially. So maintaining the philosophy of hit without being hit, but at the same time be entertaining. And Shakur has explicitly stated that the business of boxing is no longer in the way. And we should know that boxing is about entertainment. It's about mastery. It's definitely about mastery. It's about discipline. It's about entertaining the fans. But also boxing is part of capitalism. And therefore, capitalism, business, the business of boxing is essential, particularly for the fighter. Because in boxing, you have a small window to make a lot of money. So again, we have the issues that maybe the philosophy doesn't align. But what does align, as we've stated, is the meritocracy. So, and imagine, think of this. Imagine if not only does Shakur become the best, but he adapts his style to become a fan-friendly boxer. That will show a true evolution in his style. And maybe, just maybe, he might have to adapt what you call the Floyd Mayweather philosophy, where the marketing has to be stronger. So the marketing of the fighter, maybe you turn him into a villain, or maybe you market the narrative of him fighting other people. Maybe that becomes a driving force. So people, like when you look at Mayweather, people turned up to see him lose, because fundamentally, even though from a purist perspective, Mayweather is entertaining, from a casual perspective, he is not. But people were turning up. They were paying because they wanted to see him lose. because Floyd Mayweather adapted the role of the villain. And then the final statement is that he, Shakur, beat the system, and now he's about to stomp the door down. And this is the emotional core of the interview. And this kind of reveals a fighter who may have felt suppressed, maybe by the politics of boxing. I think there's an interesting thing to allude to here. If the environment and culture of Zuffa becomes a problem, then this to me would be the prevailing narrative. Sometimes we can solve old problems, but in solving old problems, sometimes we create new problems. But with that being said, obviously Zuffa have offered a tremendous amount of money, and ultimately, congratulations to Shakur Stevenson. Think of this. Shakur Stevenson spent years telling us the business of boxing was limiting the fights, limiting the opportunities, and the version of himself that we were allowed to see. Now that barrier is gone. No restrictions, no excuses, no promoter to blame. This becomes defense versus meritocracy. And can elite defense still dominate in a system built around action, pressure, and entertainment? Shakur has declared himself the best fighter on the roster, the best adapter in boxing, and the man who beat the system. Now he must prove it. The door is open, and what happens next will define his legacy forever. So that's the end of the video. Now I'm trying to build a digital boxing community, and that means I'm interested in your thoughts, I'm interested in your perspectives, and I'm interested in your observations. Now, if you want to support the channel, press like, hype, and subscribe. And if you want to watch more content like this, then simply click here or click here. As always, thanks for your time. It is much appreciated.